The old ruins of the alien colony lay silent under the cold sky. Broken walls stood like tired bones, and the wind carried dust through empty streets. In one corner of the ruins, a small alien girl sat alone. Her skin was pale, marked with faint glowing lines that pulsed weakly in the dark. Her big eyes stared at the ground as if waiting for something that would never come. She was only 10 years old, but her face looked older because of hunger and sadness. Her clothes were torn and her bare feet pressed against the cold stones. For many nights she had cried herself to sleep. No one came. No one answered. She was abandoned, left behind when soldiers destroyed her village. Her people had vanished, and those who survived had no place for an orphan like her. Sometimes she whispered to herself, almost too soft to hear. "I never had a birthday," she said, hugging her thin knees. She did not even know what a birthday really was. She had heard other children speak about it once, long ago, before the war. They had laughed and shared sweets, but she had never been part of it. To her, birthdays were a dream that belonged to others, never to her. The night grew colder. She shivered and looked at the stars. They were bright, scattered like little fires across the black sky. For a moment, she thought maybe her parents were up there watching her. But the thought brought no comfort, only more tears. She closed her eyes, trying to sleep, but hunger twisted inside her stomach like sharp claws. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed through the ruins. It was not the usual cry of night animals or the moan of the wind. It was steady footsteps crunching over broken stone. The girl froze. Fear gripped her chest. She had learned to hide whenever she heard strangers. Soldiers had come before, searching for survivors. They called children like her useless mouths. If they found her, they would hurt her or worse. Quickly, she crawled behind a cracked wall, holding her breath. The footsteps grew louder. Then a voice called out, deep and strange, not the language of her people. "Is someone here?" The girl's heart raced. She pressed her hand against her mouth to stop from making a sound. Slowly, she peeked through the broken stones. What she saw made her blink in surprise. It was not a soldier. It was not even an alien. It was a human. The man walked carefully, carrying a small light in his hand. His clothes were dusty from travel, but his face was calm, almost gentle. He looked around the ruins as if searching for something important. On his back was a pack heavy with supplies. The girl had never seen a human up close, only heard stories. Some said they were cruel invaders, others said they were helpers who crossed the stars. She did not know which one was true. The human stopped near the wall where she hid. He set down his pack and pulled something out. The girl squinted. It was round, covered in paper, and had tiny candles stuck on top. She had no word for it, but somehow she felt the glow of kindness in that small object. The man lit one candle, and a warm flame flickered in the darkness. "This is silly," the human muttered softly to himself, almost smiling. "But maybe it will help." The girl's eyes widened. She had never seen anything like it. The candlelight reflected in her glowing eyes, making them shine. For the first time in years, she felt a strange pull inside her chest, curiosity stronger than fear. She whispered without meaning to, her voice shaking, "What is that?" The human turned quickly, surprised. His eyes met hers through the crack in the wall. For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then he spoke gently. "It's a birthday cake." The girl's lips trembled. She stepped back, ready to run, but her heart would not let her. She had just said those words earlier. "I never had a birthday." Was this some kind of answer? Her chest hurt with confusion. The human did not move closer. He kept his hands open, showing he meant no harm. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I heard there was someone left here. I brought food. And this." Her eyes shifted to the cake again. The candles burned softly, small but warm against the endless dark. She had spent her whole life waiting for anyone to notice her. Now, in the ruins of her broken world, a stranger had come with firelight and strange words of kindness. The girl did not yet trust him, but her heart whispered something she could not ignore. Maybe, just maybe, her first real birthday was about to begin. The little alien girl stood frozen, half hidden behind the wall. Her wide, glowing eyes stayed locked on the strange man. The human did not move quickly. He simply sat on the broken stone, placing the small cake with its candle in front of him. The warm light flickered across his face. He looked tired but not dangerous. The girl's heart beat fast. She wanted to run away, but her feet would not listen. Hunger pulled her forward. Loneliness pulled her forward even more. For so long she had only spoken to herself. Now someone was speaking to her. The man smiled faintly. It's safe. I promise. No one will hurt you while I'm here. His voice was calm, steady like a fire in winter. The girl whispered, Why you bring that? She pointed with a shaking finger at the strange round thing. This? The man looked down at the cake. It's a birthday cake. For celebrating life, every child should have one. It means you are alive and you are special. The words hit her like lightning. Alive. Special. She had never thought those words belonged to her. She hugged herself tighter, as if afraid they would break apart if she believed them too much. She whispered back, I never had a birthday. Her voice cracked, almost breaking into a sob. The man nodded slowly, his eyes softening. I know, that's why today can be your first. If you'll let me. Silence stretched between them again. The candle flame bent in the breeze. The girl's stomach growled loudly and she blushed with shame. She turned her face away, but the human did not laugh. He only reached into his bag and pulled out a packet. He opened it, showing small pieces of bread and dried fruit. You must be hungry, he said gently. He placed the food on a flat stone between them. He did not push it closer. He simply waited. The girl looked at the food, then at him. Her heart said it might be a trap. She had seen soldiers trick survivors before, but her body ached with hunger, and the man's eyes did not look like the eyes of killers. They looked heavy, tired, almost kind. Step by step, she crept out from her hiding place. Her bare feet scraped softly against the stone. She crouched low, ready to flee if he moved too quickly, but the man stayed still. She reached out, snatched a piece of bread, and ran back behind the wall. Then, hiding, she nibbled the bread carefully. It was soft, sweet. Her eyes filled with tears. She had not tasted food like this in years. The human smiled again, just a little. See, no tricks. Just food, and cake. After a long moment, the girl spoke again, voice trembling. Why you help me, you human? My people say humans bring war. The man sighed, his shoulders heavy. Some humans bring war. That is true. But not all. I'm not here to fight. I'm a doctor. I came to heal, not harm. He placed his hand on his chest. My name is Daniel. The girl stared at him. Daniel. The name felt strange on her tongue, but she whispered it softly. Daniel, he nodded. And what's your name? She hesitated. It had been so long since anyone asked. Her name almost felt forgotten, like dust in the ruins. At last she said it, her voice small. Lyra. Lyra. Daniel repeated gently, as if tasting it with care. That's beautiful. Her cheeks grew warm. No one had ever called her beautiful. She lowered her head, not knowing what to say. Daniel picked up the cake again. The candle still burned, a tiny flame in the dark ruins. He held it carefully, like something sacred. Lyra, every child deserves one birthday. One day to feel loved. I cannot give back what was taken from you, but I can give you this. The girl blinked at him, confused. What I do? I don't know. Birthday, Daniel chuckled softly. It's simple. You close your eyes, make a wish, and blow out the candle. That's all? Lyra frowned. Wish? Yes, Daniel said. Something your heart wants most. You don't have to tell me, just whisper it inside yourself. Then blow when the fire goes out. That's your first birthday. She stared at the flickering flame. It looked so small, but in her heart it felt like the sun. 1,000 wishes rushed into her mind. Food, safety, warmth. But one wish was louder than all. Not to be alone anymore, but fear still clung to her. She shook her head. If I blow, soldiers come. They find us. Daniel's eyes turned serious. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. If they come, I will protect you. That is my promise. She stared at him, surprised. No one had ever promised her anything. Promises were for children with families, not for abandoned girls in ruins. But Daniel's voice carried no doubt. He looked like a man who had seen pain and still chose to keep hope alive. The girl's lips trembled. Slowly she stood, walking closer. Her small hands reached out toward the cake. She felt the heat of the candle brush her fingers. Daniel did not stop her. He only waited. Lyra closed her eyes. She whispered her wish inside her broken heart. Then she leaned forward and blew. The candle flame flickered, then vanished into smoke. For a moment there was silence. The stars seemed to shine brighter. Daniel clapped his hands once and smiled warmly. Happy birthday, Lyra. Her eyes filled with tears. No one had ever said those words to her. She hugged herself again, not knowing how to answer. But deep inside, something new stirred. Hope. And for the first time in her life, Lyra believed that maybe, just maybe, she was not abandoned anymore. The night was colder than before. After the candle went out, the ruins fell silent again. Only the faint crackle of Daniel's small fire broke the darkness. Lyra sat near it, hugging her knees. She still felt shy, unsure if she should stay close to him or move far away. Daniel sat opposite her, carefully fixing a small metal pot of warm soup. The smell filled the air, soft and comforting. For the first time in years, Lyra felt safe enough to let her mind wander. But the past did not let her go so easily. Her eyes grew heavy and memories slipped back into her thoughts. She saw fire, the fire that had eaten her village. She heard screams, people running, soldiers shouting in harsh voices. She saw her mother's hands pushing her into a hiding place. "Stay quiet, Lyra, don't move. Don't cry." Her mother's face was the last thing she remembered before everything turned red with flames. She shivered and hugged herself tighter. Tears rolled down her cheeks, Daniel noticed. He placed the pot aside and leaned forward. "Lyra, are you all right?" She shook her head quickly, wiping her eyes. No, all right. I see them. Every night." Daniel frowned softly. "You mean the soldiers?" She nodded. "They burn everything. They kill everyone. They say children no use. They leave me." Her voice cracked with pain, each word a knife. "I hide for days. Then no one come back, all gone. All dead." Her small body trembled. She had never told anyone this much before. But now, in front of Daniel, the words spilled out like water from a broken jar. Daniel listened in silence, his jaw tightening. His eyes grew dark with anger, but he did not let it show fully. Instead, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small blanket. He walked slowly and draped it over Lyra's thin shoulders. She looked up at him, startled. "No one should go through that," Daniel said quietly. "I'm sorry, Lyra, I'm so sorry." The girl blinked. No one had ever said sorry to her before. Not for the village, not for her pain, not for her loneliness. For a moment, she simply stared at him, wondering if this was real. Daniel sat back down and stirred the soup again. "I've seen war too," he admitted, his voice low. "Back on Earth. Different place, different faces, but the same cruelty. I became a doctor because I couldn't stand watching people die anymore." Lyra tilted her head, curious. "Doctor, you heal?" "Yes," Daniel nodded. "I heal. I help." Her lips trembled. "Why help me?" "I nothing, I dirty. I weak." Daniel's eyes softened. He looked straight at her. "You're not nothing, Lyra, you're alive. That makes you stronger than you know. And no child is ever dirty for surviving." The words hit her heart like warm light. She lowered her eyes, unsure how to answer. But deep inside, she wanted to believe him. Daniel carefully poured some soup into a small cup and handed it to her. "Eat, you need strength." She took it with shaking hands. The warmth spread through her fingers. She sipped slowly, and her whole body relaxed as the taste filled her mouth. For the first time in years, her stomach did not ache. As she ate, Daniel kept watch on the dark edges of the ruins. His soldier's instincts had never left him, even though he now called himself a healer. Something about the silence felt wrong. Too still, too heavy. He leaned closer to Lyra. "Have you seen anyone else here?" "Patrols, soldiers?" She froze, lowering the cup. "Sometimes. They come, they look. They say if they find me, they finish me. I always hide." Daniel's eyes narrowed. He had guessed as much. If enemy patrols were nearby, then staying in the ruins was dangerous. He forced a smile for Lyra's sake. "Don't worry. You're not alone now. If they come, I'll keep you safe." Her eyes widened. "You promise?" He nodded firmly. "I promise." For the first time, Lyra's small lips curved into the faintest smile. It was fragile, like a candle flame in the wind, but it was real. The night grew deeper. Stars stretched across the sky like endless silver rivers. Daniel let her rest, but he stayed awake, sharpening a small knife and checking his medical kit. His mind kept replaying her words, "Children no use." His fists clenched. He hated the cruelty that would abandon or hunt a child. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed in the distance. Metal against stone. Daniel's eyes snapped open. He grabbed his light and scanned the shadows. Lyra stirred, waking up. "What is it?" she whispered. "Stay quiet," Daniel said softly. "Someone's here." The sound came again. Boots moving slowly, carefully. More than one. Daniel's heart tightened. Enemy patrol. He put a finger to his lips, telling Lyra to stay silent. Her whole body shook with fear. Memories of soldiers burned in her mind again. Daniel leaned close and whispered, "Remember my promise. I'll protect you, no matter what." Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. She believed him now. The shadows grew thicker at the edge of the ruins. Figures moved, whispering in a language Lyra knew too well. Soldiers. And in that moment, Lyra realized her past was no longer just a memory. It had followed her into the present, but this time she was not alone. The ruins were quiet again after the patrol passed. Daniel had held Lyra close, keeping her hidden until the footsteps faded into the night. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Only when the silence felt safe did Lyra finally breathe again. Her small hands clutched Daniel's sleeve. "They come again," she whispered, eyes wide with fear. Daniel nodded slowly. "Yes, but don't worry. I won't let them take you." His voice was steady, but his mind was already planning. They couldn't stay in the ruins forever. They needed hope. They needed strength. And more than anything, Lyra needed to feel like she was worth saving. The next morning, the gray sky lit the broken walls. Lyra woke up to find Daniel sorting through his pack. He hummed softly to himself, an old earth tune she didn't recognize. Curious, she crawled closer. "What you doing?" she asked. Daniel looked up with a small smile. "I'm making something special." "Do you remember last night, when you blew out the candle?" Lyra nodded shyly. "My birthday." The word still felt strange on her tongue. "That's right," Daniel said warmly. "But a birthday isn't just one candle. It's more than that. Back on Earth, we celebrate with food, decorations, and a little joy. Every child deserves that, even in a place like this." Lyra tilted her head. "Here, but we no have things. Only ruins," Daniel winked. "Then we'll use what we have. A birthday doesn't come from gold or gifts. It comes from love and care. That I can give." She blinked, surprised. No one had ever spoken to her like that. The thought of joy in the middle of ruins felt impossible, yet Daniel's voice made it sound real. All day, he worked. He gathered wild berries from the edges of the ruins. He found broken pieces of cloth fluttering in the wind and tied them together as makeshift ribbons. He even carved small shapes into bits of wood with his knife, setting them in a circle like ornaments. Lyra followed him silently at first, watching with wide eyes. She didn't understand why he was doing all this for her. Finally, she asked in a small voice, "Why you try so hard? I'm not important." Daniel stopped, looking straight at her. His voice was firm but kind. "Lyra, you are important. You matter more than you know. You've survived things most adults couldn't, and that deserves to be celebrated. If no one else will do it, then I will." The words made her chest feel tight. She turned away, hiding her face, but she could not stop the warmth rising inside her. As the sun lowered, Daniel lit a small fire. He placed the simple cake he had saved from his supplies at the center of the decorations. It wasn't perfect, just a small round bread with fruit pressed into it and one last candle on top. But to Lyra, it looked like magic. Her glowing eyes widened. This all for me?" Daniel smiled. "Yes, for you. Tonight we celebrate your very first birthday party." Her knees went weak. She almost didn't believe it. For so long she had been invisible, forgotten by everyone. And now, here was someone who saw her as worthy of joy. Daniel placed the candle on the bread and lit it. The tiny flame flickered, casting soft light over the broken walls. For a moment, the ruins looked less like a graveyard and more like a home. "Close your eyes, Lyra," Daniel said gently. "Make another wish." Lyra hesitated. Her small hands trembled as she closed her eyes. She whispered inside her heart, "I wish this never ends. I wish he never leaves me." Then she blew softly and the flame vanished into smoke. Daniel clapped once. "Happy birthday again, Lyra." The sound startled her at first, but then she giggled, an honest, bright giggle that she had never made in years. The sound surprised even her. She covered her mouth, eyes wide, then laughed again. Daniel laughed too, his heart lighter than it had been in months. For a little while, the ruins felt alive again. Lyra tasted sweet berries. She touched the carved wooden shapes and held them like treasures. She even tried to dance around the fire, her bare feet tapping on the stone. It was simple, fragile, but it was real joy. But joy does not last forever. As the last light of the day faded, Daniel's ears caught a faint sound. The same metallic click he had heard the night before. His smile faded. He glanced at the shadows. Lyra noticed his sudden stillness. "What wrong?" Daniel lowered his voice. "We're not alone." Her laughter died instantly. Fear returned to her glowing eyes. She clutched his arm tightly. In the distance, shapes moved between the broken walls. Soldiers. They had seen the faint glow of fire and the flicker of a candle. The patrol was closing in. Daniel quickly pushed the decorations aside, covering the cake with his jacket. He grabbed his knife in one hand and his medical pack in the other. "Lyra," he whispered firmly, "listen to me. Whatever happens, stay behind me. Do not run. Do not scream. I promised I'd protect you, and I will." Her small voice shook. "They find us?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Yes, but this time I'm ready." The sound of boots grew louder. The laughter of soldiers echoed through the ruins, and just like that, the fragile birthday celebration turned into the start of a battle. The night carried danger in its breath. The fire that once warmed Lyra's smile now looked like a beacon calling enemies closer. Daniel's sharp eyes followed the shadows moving between the ruins. The sound of boots scraping on stone grew clearer, louder, heavier. He knew they had only moments. "Stay behind me, Lyra," he whispered, his tone calm but firm. He crouched low, gripping his knife in one hand. His other hand gently pushed her back toward the wall. "Remember my promise. I will keep you safe." Her glowing eyes were wide with terror. She hugged the blanket he had given her, her small body shaking. "Daniel, I don't want them to take you, please." He forced a reassuring smile. "They won't. Trust me." The soldiers' voices echoed in their harsh language. Lyra understood enough to know what they said. "Search the ruins. The human is here." And the child, Daniel's jaw tightened. So they already knew. This was not a random patrol. They had come for them. One soldier stepped into the firelight. His armor was scarred, his eyes cold. He sneered when he saw Daniel. "Human," he spat. "Hand over the girl." Daniel straightened slowly, standing tall in front of Lyra. "She stays with me." The soldier laughed cruelly. "She is worthless." "She was left to die. You waste your time." Daniel's voice grew hard as steel. "Every life has worth. Especially hers." The soldier's smirk faded. He raised his weapon. "Then you die with her." In an instant, chaos exploded. The soldier lunged forward, but Daniel was faster. He ducked low, slashing his knife across the attacker's leg. The alien cried out, stumbling back. Daniel grabbed a broken piece of wood from the ground and swung it into another soldier's face, knocking him into the rubble. "Run!" one of the soldiers shouted in their language. "Trap them in the corner!" Lyra pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding so loud she thought it would burst. She wanted to scream, but Daniel's words echoed in her mind. "Stay behind me, don't scream." She covered her mouth and crouched low, praying he would survive. Daniel fought like a man who had nothing left to lose. He blocked a blade with his arm, pain shooting through his flesh, but he didn't fall. He shoved the soldier back with all his strength. Then he grabbed a handful of ash from the fire and threw it into another enemy's eyes. The soldier staggered, blinded, but there were too many. 3 more closed in. Daniel's breath grew ragged. He was strong, but he was only one man. One soldier swung a heavy strike. Daniel blocked it, but the force knocked him to the ground. His knife slipped from his hand, clattering across the stones. "Daniel!" Lyra cried out before she could stop herself. The soldier turned toward her, voice grinning. "There's the little rat." He reached out toward her, but Daniel roared, launching himself forward. He tackled the soldier to the ground, fists slamming again and again. Blood splattered across the stones. Daniel's eyes blazed with fury. "You will not touch her." Another soldier kicked Daniel hard in the ribs, sending him sprawling. Pain shot through his body. He coughed, gasping for air. His vision blurred, but he forced himself back to his knees. Lyra scrambled forward, tears streaming down her face. She grabbed the knife lying on the ground and held it in both trembling hands. Her voice cracked with fear, but she shouted, "Stay away from him!" The soldiers froze for a moment, surprised. The small alien girl who was supposed to be weak now stood between them and the human, knife shaking in her grip. One soldier sneered. Pathetic. He raised his weapon to strike her down, but Daniel surged forward, ignoring the pain. He threw himself in front of Lyra, blocking the blow with his arm. The blade cut deep, blood spilling down, but he did not fall. He turned and drove his fist into the soldier's throat, dropping him instantly. Daniel staggered, his body failing but his spirit unbroken. He pulled Lyra close, shielding her with his bloodied arm. "I told you," he whispered hoarsely. "I won't let them take you." The remaining soldiers hesitated. One looked at Daniel's face, at the fierce determination in his eyes. This was no ordinary human. This was a man who would die before breaking his promise. For a moment the silence stretched. Then with a sharp order, the soldiers pulled back, dragging their wounded with them. Their leader spat on the ground. "Enjoy your moment, human. We will return, and next time no one will save you." They disappeared into the shadows, leaving the ruins quiet once more. Lyra dropped the knife and clung to Daniel, sobbing into his chest. You hurt because of me?" Daniel coughed, blood on his lips, but he smiled weakly. "I hurt because I fight. That means I'm still alive. And as long as I'm alive, so are you." She shook her head, tears shining. "Why? Why do you protect me?" "I nothing." Daniel placed his trembling hand on her cheek. "You're not nothing, Lyra, you're everything. You're a child who deserves to live. And I promised, you will never be alone again." Her heart broke and healed at the same time. She buried her face in his chest, clinging to him as if the world would tear them apart. The fire crackled weakly beside them. The decorations lay ruined, the simple birthday cake crushed beneath the soldiers' boots. The celebration was gone, but in its place, something stronger was born. Trust. And though the soldiers had left, both Daniel and Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The ruins smelled of smoke and blood. The fire had burned down to weak embers glowing faintly in the night. Daniel leaned back against the broken wall, his breaths heavy, his arm wrapped in blood-soaked cloth. Lyra sat beside him, her small hands shaking as she tried to tie the cloth tighter. Tears ran down her glowing cheeks, but she didn't stop. "Hold still," she whispered. Her voice was soft but firm, like a child forcing herself to be brave. Daniel winced as she pulled the bandage. "You're doing well, Lyra. Better than some soldiers I've treated." She looked up quickly, eyes wide. "I never heal anyone before." He gave her a weak smile. "And yet you're saving me now." Her heart squeezed. The man who had stood like a wall between her and death now looked pale and fragile. It scared her. She had always been the weak one, the one who needed saving. But tonight, Daniel was hurt because of her. When she finished tying the bandage, she sat back, wiping her tears with the edge of her sleeve. "You promise you not leave me," she whispered. "But what if you die?" Daniel's tired eyes softened. He reached out and gently brushed her cheek with his hand. "Then I'll fight until my last breath to keep that promise. But listen, Lyra, tonight you saved me too. When you stood up with that knife, when you shouted at them, that gave me strength. You gave me something worth fighting for." Her lips trembled. "I give you strength?" "Yes," he said firmly. "Because you are not nothing. You belong here with me. Do you understand?" Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not only from sadness. She nodded slowly, pressing her small hand against his. For a long moment they sat in silence. The ruins around them felt less empty, as if the bond between them filled the cracks. Lyra leaned her head against Daniel's chest, listening to his heartbeat. It was weak but steady. Each beat was a reminder that he was still alive, still here with her. She whispered softly, "When I was alone, I wished for family, but no one came. Now you here, maybe you my family." Daniel's throat tightened. He placed his arm gently around her, pulling her closer. "Yes, Lyra, family is not always blood. Family is who stays, and I'll stay." Her body shook as she began to cry again, but this time her tears carried relief. For the first time, she didn't feel abandoned. She felt chosen. The night stretched on. Daniel drifted in and out of sleep, pain dragging him down. But Lyra stayed awake, watching over him. Each time his breath hitched, she pressed her hand to his chest to make sure his heart still beat. She whispered little words, promises in her broken voice. "You save me. I save you. We together." At dawn, the sky turned pale blue. Lyra's eyes were heavy, but she didn't let herself sleep. She looked at the crushed birthday cake lying near the ashes. The decorations were ruined, scattered by soldiers' boots. For a moment, sadness touched her heart again, but then she stood, wiping her face. Quietly, she gathered what remained. Pieces of cloth, the carved wood, the berries that hadn't been smashed. She worked with her small hands, arranging them carefully. It wasn't much, but it was hers. When Daniel stirred awake, he blinked in surprise. In front of him, on a flat stone, Lyra had made a new cake, a small pile of berries with a broken candle she had found in the dirt. She smiled shyly. "You give me birthday," she whispered. "Now I give you." Daniel's chest ached, but not from his wounds. It ached from the warmth that filled him at her words. He sat up slowly, wincing, and looked at the tiny creation. "That's the best gift I've ever received," Lyra giggled softly. "You blow this time." "Make wish," he chuckled, then nodded. He closed his eyes, whispered something inside his heart, and blew. The weak flame vanished into smoke. "What you wish?" Lyra asked. Daniel smiled, his eyes gentle. "I wished that you never feel alone again." Her glowing eyes widened and she leaned against him tightly. "Then wish already true." They sat together, the ruins no longer just a place of death, but the beginning of something new. For Lyra, the gift was not the cake or the candle. It was belonging. But beyond the walls, danger had not vanished. The soldiers who retreated last night would return, stronger, angrier. Daniel knew it. Lyra knew it too. Yet for now they held on to each other, and for the first time in both their lives they felt like family. The morning sun broke through the gray sky, casting soft light over the ruins. For the first time in years, Lyra did not wake up alone. She stirred and found Daniel still beside her, resting against the wall, his breathing slow but steady. Her small hand was still wrapped around his, as if afraid that if she let go, he might disappear. She smiled faintly. Not a dream, but peace never lasted long. Far away, the faint echo of boots and metal clanging against stone reached her ears. She froze, then shook Daniel awake. His eyes opened immediately, sharp even through pain. He listened for a moment, then sighed heavily. "They're coming back." Lyra's heart raced. "What we do, they many." "You hurt." Daniel looked at her, his gaze firm. "We don't run anymore. We stand." She wanted to argue, but something inside her shifted. For the first time, she didn't feel like a weak, forgotten child. She felt like part of something bigger, part of them, together. Daniel pushed himself up, wincing as his wounds pulled. He picked up a broken piece of metal, sharper now after he had filed it down the night before. "Stay behind me, but this time, if you're brave enough, we face them together." Lyra's glowing eyes widened. Then slowly she nodded. Together. The soldiers arrived, armored figures stepping out from the shadows. Their leader, taller than the rest, sneered at the sight of Daniel still alive. "You should have bled out, human. And that child should be ash. Yet here you are. Do you think you can defy us again?" Daniel stood firm, the broken weapon steady in his hand. "I don't think I know. She is under my protection. If you want her, you'll have to go through me." The leader laughed harshly. "Fool. One man cannot fight an army." Then before Daniel could reply, a small voice rose. Trembling but strong. "Not one man. Two." The soldiers turned, surprised. Lyra stepped out from behind Daniel, clutching the wooden carvings from her birthday in her hands like talismans. Her knees shook, but her chin was high. "I'm not alone," she said clearly. "I belong." The soldiers hesitated. Some even lowered their weapons for a moment, confused by her defiance. A child once abandoned, now standing proud with a human at her side. It was a sight that broke through their cruelty, even if only for seconds. Daniel saw their hesitation and took his chance. He lunged at the leader, striking hard. The fight exploded again, fists, blades, and fire. Lyra darted to Daniel's side, grabbing fallen stones and throwing them at soldiers who came too close. "Stay away," she cried, her voice fierce. One soldier charged at her, but Daniel intercepted, slamming his weapon down with all his strength. Pain ripped through his injured arm, but he didn't falter. "You will never touch her." The fight was brutal, but something was different this time. Lyra was no longer only hiding. She was fighting for her place, for her family, and Daniel, though bleeding and broken, fought harder because she stood beside him. At last, after heavy blows and desperate strikes, the leader fell. His armored body crashed onto the stones, and silence spread across the ruins. The remaining soldiers hesitated again, their resolve shaken. One by one they withdrew, dragging their wounded with them. The ruins fell quiet once more. Daniel dropped to his knees, breathing hard. Blood dripped down his arm, his body screaming with exhaustion. Lyra rushed to him, wrapping her arms around his chest. "Daniel, you still alive?" He coughed, smiling weakly. "Told you." "Promise." Her glowing eyes filled with tears. But these tears were different. Not only fear, not only sadness, these were tears of victory, of belonging. She pressed her forehead to his chest. I wish no more lonely nights. I wish family, and now, wish true. Daniel held her close, his hand resting gently on her back. Yes, Lyra, happy birthday. She blinked, surprised. But cake broken. Candle gone. He shook his head softly. A birthday isn't about candles or cakes. It's about the moment you know you matter. And today you had that. Today you found family. Her lips curved into the brightest smile she had ever worn. For the first time, the ruins didn't feel like a prison of memories. They felt like a place of beginnings. That night, when the stars returned, Daniel lit a small piece of cloth soaked in oil. It wasn't a real candle, just a flicker of flame, but he placed it on the stone, and together they watched it burn. Close your eyes, he whispered. Lyra did. She whispered a new wish inside her heart. Not for food, not for safety, but for this moment to last forever. She blew softly, and the flame vanished into the night. Daniel smiled, pulling her into a hug. The first of many birthdays, Lyra. And under the endless stars, the abandoned alien girl was abandoned no longer.